Hey guys, so today we have a very special guest with us today. We've got Shannon McCaffrey, who's become a friend of mine. But Shannon is known as the Soulful Marketer, and she is a launch specialist. She's a marketing specialist, particularly in the online world. Even though she's got 20 years of corporate experience in marketing with big brands behind her, her focus is on helping small and big online brands conduct successful launches and do it with heart and authenticity. I've had the pleasure of working together with her for over a year now. She's been a consultant for me and has brought to the table a lot of insights that have helped us, both in terms of how to increase our list and how to engage with our list and how to make our sales messaging more effective. And she can do that with you too. But I wanted to bring her in today to give you a little extra insight into how you might be messaging in your brand. And we'll talk about visual assets and so forth. So welcome, Shannon. Thank you for joining.
Hey, awesome. Thanks, Bill. Thanks for that great intro. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Why don't you start out and tell us a little bit about your business and what your kind of special angle is on it.
All right. So I've been doing this online thing for about 13 years now. And honestly, I got into it because I got laid off a couple times I was in the book publishing business. And I was just like, okay, I got a decision, go back to corporate America or do my own thing. So I had an amazing mentor who said to me, you know what, Shannon, don't go back to corporate America. I'm going to help you create an awesome marketing agency. Come work for me. Come work with Dan Kennedy. And so that's what I did. And I started out being a marketing implementer, helping people implement amazing marketing in their business. Because one of the biggest challenges I find in business owners is you have all these great ideas, and how do you get them done? So that's how I started. And then I evolved into doing product launches because I love the whole aspect of a launch. And I love all the things that you need to do in order to launch your product, your book, your course, whatever it is that you're doing. And ended up working with some pretty cool people like Jeff Walker and who else? Jack Canfield. You know, I work with a lot of amazing people, and I've been sort of the person behind them. And now it's time to, help more people, and that's why I love working with people like you, Bill. So yeah, so I'm all about how do we bring more authenticity and soul, and how do we really set up our launches so they don't have to be so complicated, and help more
That's one
people,
thing
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I was struck by you is this concept of authenticity, because over the years, online marketing has certainly evolved. And it started in its early days with a lot of bells and whistles and quick talk and fast talking salesmen.
And
And then
hype,
it
all the hype,
morphed
right?
into, yeah, exactly. Then it morphed into kind of a rigid model of formula.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to do this, and you have to say it this way, and you have to package it, and your button has to look like this, and so forth. But
Right.
it seems to me now, and especially hearing from you, because you go to so many masterminds and events and have your finger on the pulse, that things are softening and expanding to where, being true to your own brand and your own message is what's really important, while still embracing some key fundamentals of marketing, which really is nothing more than communication and engagement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I love that. I think, it's interesting, Bill, and we've been doing a lot of that, honestly, with your business. And, looking at even what's happening in the industry with what's happening with tech companies and with companies in general, people really want to work and they want to buy from people. They don't want to buy from corporations or companies. And so what I do in my work is, the more that your company and your business can sound like a real person, and communicating, and what you said, it's about building relationships, but doing it in a very authentic and sometimes funny or interesting way. I mean, if you look back to Zappos years ago before Tony Hsieh sold it, I mean, he got a huge following and so much praise because his customer service was like the best customer service people. I mean, he would tell these stories on stage about how a customer was bought the shoes and they needed a pizza, and the customer service guy, he was stranded and he helped the guy out. I mean, like all these like wacky stories, but that's how he made his name, and he was able to sell his company because he was doing things that other companies weren't doing. And you can't copy what other people. You have to be yourself. You know, you have to be authentic. You can use, like you said, you can use principles, right? There are many principles that you need to follow, but they're not like set in stone. And the worst thing you can do is like copy someone's template exactly, and like video and audio and all that, and do it like exactly like someone else, because then people are going to tell you're fake. They're going to look at your energy and they're going to know it's not real, you know?
Yeah,
So that's right.
that makes
I mean,
a lot of
you've had that,
sense.
right? You've had that experience. I mean, it's like,
And actually, that to me is a freedom, because now I don't
yes,
have to think so hard about how do I do this? How are they doing it? How am I going
right.
to do it? I can just
I need
be
you to copy
myself.
them. Well, not exactly. Right.
So that said, you do
Yeah,
have I don't want to call it a formula, but you have 7 steps
I
towards
do.
a successful launch. And maybe you can kind of run through those.
I could totally walk through the step. Yeah. So basically what I do is I have 7 simple, soulful steps. Once you answer all these 7 steps, then you can really, you're setting yourself up for a launch. I use these steps with all of my high paying launch clients. We actually spend a day, right, where we plan out their whole launch. And when we're done, they have a launch plan, right? So then it's really easy to get the launch done. So the first step, and I'm not going to go into detail, I'm just going to give you the steps. So the first one is defining your dream client or dream customer. You have to know these people inside and out. The second one is you have to clarify your services, right? You have to clarify what it is you're going to offer, whether it's a product or a course or a book or whatever, or like a consulting service. 3 is you have to create your juicy offer, and it has to be juicy. It has to be really good. Number 4 is determining their investment, right? And meaning, what are you going to charge for this? But the key around your investment, don't ever tell people they need to pay you, because when they buy something from you, and you're never going to use that term either, they're investing in you and themselves. So that's really important on step 4. 5, map out your marketing path. So whether you want to launch it with a Jeff Walker type launch, or you want to do a webinar, or maybe you just want to do a walkthrough of an online funnel where you're not going to have anything live. So you got to figure out how you're going to market and launch this. What process are you going to use? 6, you got to craft your compelling message. Messaging is really important, Bill. I think we're going to talk more about messaging in a little bit. And then the 7th step is you have to rally your raving fans. And what I mean by that is you have to have social proof. If you don't have social proof, your launch won't be successful, or as successful as it could be. And those are the 7 steps in brief.
That makes a lot of sense. And they sound simple. And I guess that's because they are the basic building blocks, right, of a marketing message, of a campaign.
They're the basic building blocks that'll set you up for success when you want to market or launch anything. You know, and I think going back, you know, to the reason why I call this soulful is because there's some tweaks in here, like your dream client or your dream customer. It's not just demographics, but it's, do they have the same values as you do? What are your values? And then what are the values you're looking for in your customers or your clients? And it's looking more in terms of like, I want to work with people who value relationships over money, because I think relationships are way more important than money. And so that's something that I put into my own, when I write out my ideal client and what I want my ideal clients, that's what I do. So when you make a list, make sure it's, and I want clients who love paying me every month, right? I mean, because I'm giving them value. I'm like, we have a relationship, like we do, you know, we've invested in each other and we help each other. And so, you know, there's certain things that I want to put when I'm looking for my ideal client or customer.
That is great. Obviously, each of these sections, there's a lot of nuancing that comes with experience and so forth. One of the things I wanted to ask you is, you know, we live in a visual world now.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And so visual assets are becoming increasingly important. We all know that video is a very, very important part of the marketing equation. And good photography and live casts are increasingly important in terms of Facebook Lives or conducting webinars, or some people like Jeff Walker are even doing their entire launch is live.
Yeah.
This last year and the year before for Product Launch Formula, he did entirely live pre-launch videos. Well, they weren't videos, they were recorded live.
Yep.
So I wanted to ask you your thoughts on the importance of visual assets and how important is it to pay attention to that, to try and deliver the best you can.
I think, visual assets are huge. And, Bill, one of the things I love about you and working with you is you have an amazing eye, and your photography and your videos and what you do and what you teach, I think is stellar, and it's different from what I've seen out in the industry, and I think that when you're looking at visual assets, there's sort of like a continuum. There's like, you can be really basic and then you can get really sophisticated. And so what I like to do is, I like, when I'm working with clients, and you teach this, which I love, it's like, you don't have to go out and spend $1 million and buy all this incredibly sophisticated equipment. I mean, you can start off simple with your phone, but I think one of the keys, and you'll agree with me, is if you have to sacrifice anything with the video, don't sacrifice the sound. So because that to me is like the worst. So I always have like a little lapel mic, and it has wire. You can get a wireless, but I like mine wired, and I hook it right in, to the camera or the phone or whatever, because the sound is going to be really important. But the other thing to think about is, when someone is coming, let's say if you're going to do any type of launch, the first thing people are going to want to look at is they're going to want to know, they're going to want to know who you are, and they're going to know, is this someone that, is this interesting, right? Should I pay attention to this guy or this gal? And, your whole goal is to have people know, like, and trust you. And honestly, one of the things that really affects trust, especially if you're doing all of your marketing and advertising and your launches online, is that if your visuals don't have an air of some type of trust and professionalism, and not like a fifth grader did it, you don't have to spend a ton of money on your graphics. But like, I just worked with Dr. Perlmutter. We did a launch for Alzheimer's, the Science of Prevention, and I love them, and they went a little overboard. Like, they took them 3 months to get all their visuals done, but I have to say they did an amazing job, because they have 2 brands, and they wanted to have some aspect of their core brand in the launch of this product, and they wanted to look a certain way, and they wanted certain colors, and I think they really pulled it off. So when it comes to branding, you can have your core brand, let's say, of your company or your business, but when you're launching a product or launching a course, you can have another graphic that depicts that, and you can have some colors, core colors from your brand, but it doesn't have to be incredibly sophisticated.
That's it's very helpful to hear. And branding is always important. It can also be overwhelming. And I agree with you. It's not for people who are at the early parts of their career. That branding may be much more simple. It may be simply a typeface and the right words, and it might just be your face.
Exactly.
Or a color palette or a style. Maybe you like everything minimal, or maybe you like everything colorful and busy and interesting in that way. Or maybe you like vintage, or maybe you like modern. But that can come through just in the background of your set, in your writing style and your fonts and your color choices. But a lot of people feel overwhelmed by the process of creating video, of creating photography, of creating live casts that they need. They know they need to do this, but they find it kind of overwhelming. It's technical and so forth. So I wanted to say that when I'm teaching, one of the core tenets is that you don't have to have a lot of expensive equipment. In fact, I pride myself in teaching people how to do the best work they can with the equipment they have. The key is to understand the principles of lighting.
Yes.
What your cameras, and by that I mean even your iPhone, is capable of, and what are the limitations.
Exactly.
And that is also true of lens choice and perspective, which the iPhone has a fixed lens, or the newer ones have some options there, but they're still limited. How to use those to best advantage. Or with the camera that you have, and if you're thinking about upgrading, and you definitely can get much better results if you're willing to invest in equipment, I guide people in where to go with that so they don't sink the boat. What's reasonable for what you want to invest. But the fundamentals are more important than the equipment. It is true what you said about sound, that is critical to have. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be excellent audiophile sound. It just has to be good.
You have to be able to hear it.
You got to be able to hear it. It has to be clean. So that's like rule number 1. You can achieve good results with almost any setup when you know how to use it. Now, having more gear can help you achieve perhaps better results and also achieve the results you want under more diverse conditions. If you're relying on a window, that limits you, right? Depends on if it's raining or shining or sunny or dark at the end of the day in the winter when we have short days. And so you have to be sensitive to those things.
I want to add to that. So, I mean, another thing that you have to consider too is looking at your brand, or more so looking at, what you want to represent in your business and who you are attracting. That also goes into your video, because your video style, like for me, I mean, my background, I'm not incredibly polished, but I'm not really messy. So behind me, yeah, I've got a huge bookshelf because I read. I'm a learnaholic. So, there's that stuff behind me, but it's not like overpowering. So it takes over from me, but I don't need to look really neat. But let's say you're Marie Kondo, right? If I'm Marie Kondo, I'm going to want to make sure that the back shelf looks like really incredibly awesome. So it's more of looking at, like, I don't know if anybody follows Casey Neistat, but I love his videos, but he's very different. Like, he's an influencer, and, he takes you on a trip and he's on a skateboard, he's on this, he's on that. So a lot of it too, when you're looking at doing your videos, is what do you want behind you that represents you, but also doesn't take away from you. But maybe you want to have, sort of a woman on the street or a person on the street kind of effect, and be more authentic. So, right, Bill? I mean, when you agree, it depends on, what it is that what you're trying to project.
That's right? Exactly right. Because what you're creating visually is no more than supporting your message.
Exactly, and your personality, right, and what you bring, yes, right, to the table.
You would certainly not expect the same video from a doctor or an attorney as you would from somebody teaching skateboarding, right?
Exactly.
Very different settings, very different style. I'll also add to that there are, even with any category, there is a time and a place for campy, fun, unrefined, unproduced,
right.
spontaneous imagery and videos, and there's a place for more produced, more professional quality. And I think a good brand actually has a combination of both.
Oh, I totally agree. Like a behind the scenes thing versus like if you're doing a launch. But I know we talked about Jeff earlier, and I don't want to make this all about him, but something that anybody who's listening to this needs to understand is that I work with him, and that man has been doing this for 18 years. So you got to think about it. Like, if you're a newbie and you're just starting out, don't do what he's doing, because you know what? He has a lot of experience, and he's done this. Like, you don't have to have that type of quality when you're first starting out. I mean, seriously, you can do things like you were talking about. You can do something with your phone, and you can do something, on a smaller scale. But you also need to really look at who your audience is, so that you can then create things. We're all about attracting who we most want to help and serve, right? So the more we have that in our heads, the easier it will make it when we sit down and do these types of videos like you and I are doing right now, right?
That's exactly right. And I'll give you an example of one of my clients, Chris Carr. I don't know if people know her, but you probably know Chris. She's a very well-known, almost a celebrity in the wellness world right now. She's a cancer survivor, a thriver, as she calls herself. She's got a very fun personality too, and she's a very sharp businesswoman. And she has a very bubbly personality and loves to dance and sing and get very loose with her social media videos and Instagram stories sometimes. But I'll tell you, when it comes time to sell, she gets very buttoned up. It doesn't mean she gets serious, but the level of production, the quality that goes into the videography is much, much better, and the lighting and so forth. So there is a place for both. On her sales letter, you're going to see high quality images and video. And her Instagram story, you are maybe going to see something much campier and looser. So there is a place.
So there's a difference between social media, video, and photography, and quality of photos, as opposed to when you're outright putting together a really good slick marketing funnel, right? I mean, there's a difference in the messaging, and it's more thought out and thought through, as opposed to social media, where it may not be as thought out and thought through. And it doesn't have to be, because that's not the venue. That's not what people expect on social media.
That's the nature of it. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
And you should just kind of go with it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What do you say to people, your clients, that when you say, well, you're gonna have to create these videos or whatever, and they're like, I just don't like being in front of the camera. Some people are not comfortable being in front of the camera for many reasons. They may not like the way they look. They may not like the way they sound. They may not like the fact that they, I don't know, are on stage of a sort. They clam up. This is different from the technical overwhelm that sometimes people feel. Any
Yeah.
advice on that?
Yeah, I mean, there's two ways that I usually handle it. I mean, the first way is honestly, if I don't think, and we've agreed that maybe video isn't the way to go, you don't have to do video. You could do a webinar where you're doing slides and you're just doing audio. I mean, there is a way that you don't have to do video. And the second thing is, you know what, if we really think that, because video does sell and video is more helpful, especially if people want to know, like, and trust you, right? So seeing you and hearing you at the same time is very important. And what I would say is practice. Practice, and figure out, okay, because I ask this question every time, and I'm sure you do too, is like, okay, we know we're going to put you on video. What do you want? Do you want bullets or do you need a script? Like, are you going to read it from a prompter or do you just need some bullets and you just want to talk? Because there are definitely two types of people, right? There's
Yes,
a
absolutely.
person, right? I'm just going to read it, because the thing is, when people read it, you can't sound like you're reading it, because that's not going to be authentic. So, like, I'm a bullet person. I'm just going to talk. I'm not going to go from a script, because I don't like scripts anyway. Just give me the points and I know I'll hit them, and I'll know I'll do it, because I know I'll sound, because I want to sound like I'm coming from my heart, and I want to sound like I'm coming from a place of I want to help, and that's what I want to do, and that's how I learn. So you have to know that about yourself. And I know you have some really good resources in order to help people.
Yes. To script or not to script, that is a big question.
I know,
And
right? It
one
is.
thing I have people ask me all the time is, should I use a teleprompter? And it is very personal. To your point, if you are going to use a teleprompter, the benefits are that you can script exactly the wording you want, and that's great. And you can have a comfort level knowing you're going to get the words right.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you have to take it once or twice or three times, but you do have to be able to use a teleprompter in a natural way, exactly like you said. Some people are skilled at that, some aren't. I know people who are experts at teleprompter. You just would never know. They're natural. You don't really see their eyes tracking and so forth. And
Right.
others, you know instantly that they're on a teleprompter. And if you're not going to be on a teleprompter, and I fall into your camp, I don't like them personally for
Yeah.
myself. I like bullet points as well, and just
Mm-hmm.
go. And you do risk that maybe your delivery is not precisely like you want, or maybe you miss a couple of points. And the payoff there is that that's okay, as long as you are getting your message across and you're connecting with them and the key points are there, you're going to be fine. Because
Yeah.
connection is more important than all the details of the words,
Well,
really.
being authentic, what we said
Yeah.
earlier. Yeah, being authentic and being genuine. That's way more important. And flub ups are good. Like, I got to tell you, I mean, working, doing this for a long time, I mean, where people stop and they'll say, oh, wait, hold on, I need to get a drink of water, or my kid walked in. I mean, sometimes those flub ups, because think about it, from when we watch television, right? In the old days of television, because, yeah, we're getting that old. It's like, you always love behind the scenes things, or when things happen that weren't scripted, or when live television,
It
something,
makes it real.
right, and it's
Makes it
fun.
approachable.
And it's interesting, and it sort of, breaks things up. So don't be afraid. Like, your videos have to be perfect. They don't have to be perfect. They just need to be real and thought out.
The other thing, when with my clients, I will coach them that, being comfortable in front of the camera is a learned trait. Sure, it comes more naturally to some people than others, but anybody can improve from where they are with practice, as you said. But one of the things I like to tell people is to stop thinking about themselves as an entertainer and start thinking as a teacher.
Yes.
Really, if you just focus on what it is you want to communicate, what you want to teach this person, then everything else goes away. Because honestly, that's all they care about. The
Yeah.
rest is just in our head.
Exactly. How do you add value, right? How
Yeah.
can you impact them? How can you help them with some type of transformation? Yeah, I mean, that's the real goal.
So I'll transition out of this kind of visual talk for a minute. I wanted to get a sense for where you see different trends in our industry right now, just in terms of marketing and so forth. How are things shifting right now? What are the takeaways you're getting from like your high-level masterminds you go to and so forth?
I think the biggest takeaway right now is, I think we talked about it a little bit ago, but I really think it's going to be the more authentic and the more that you can really relate and really, have your messaging down of how you can help someone. And it's not about us anymore, right? It's not about me. So when you come to my webpage, it's not like, oh, hey, here's Shannon and here's everything that she does. It's like, oh, hey, you out there, you need help on your launches. Here are all the problems you're having, and here's how I can help you solve them. I mean, that's one aspect of it. And the other is, there's an interesting trend of what's happening in social media. And I think that a lot, in my opinion, this is all my opinion, right? Is that I think people are going a little overboard on social media. And the thing that scares me is people that have all their business like on Facebook, where all they're doing is getting advertising, getting clients on Facebook or on Instagram. I mean, and I'm a Dan Kennedy follower and I work with Dan Kennedy, and it's not, the power of one is never something you want, right? You have to have more than one way where you're getting clients and you're building your list. So I don't think people say email is dead. Email is not ever going to be dead. You always need to be thinking about how are you building your list, whether it's every day, every week, or once a month. You have to be focusing on how you're going to continue to build your list of hot prospects and people that you want to go after and that people that you want to help transform. And that's not ever going to go away, whether you do it through, social media, or whether you do it through direct mail, or whether you do it through joint venture, or whether you do it, however you're going to do it. And there's many ways to do it outside of social media, but social media keeps getting all the play. But there are many other ways that you can build your list. You can use meetup.com. You can go to events. You can go to online forums. I mean, find out where these people hang out and go, hang out with them, right?
That is gold. That is gold. Having multiple avenues for people to find you.
Yeah, and you know what? And don't get caught up in the social media Facebook ad frenzy. Think about what happened to Google ads. Oh my God, they changed the algorithm and everybody, with what's happening, with Facebook, I mean, I just say don't tie all of your business to one way of marketing. And the other thing too is Facebook is interruption marketing. People don't go to Facebook to buy stuff, right? So people go to Google to buy stuff and to search for stuff. So it might be better to have some ads on Google as well as Facebook, because you know what? There is a difference in that, in the marketing. But other trends, customer service is another one, where people who have really crappy customer service are never going to succeed. And look at what's happening in Uber, and look at what's happening, in other businesses outside of online technology. If you haven't signed up to thehustle.com, I would totally recommend it. The Hustle gives you these great, that comes out every day and it's free. And it gives you all these great insights into what's happening in tech and in businesses. And they have really interesting things that happen with trends. Oh, really good one is what happened with Peloton. Did you see the whole thing that happened with Peloton and that crazy
response to this ad?
But the interesting thing about that is that, you know what, negative publicity is actually still good, because this company now has got, it's huge, people now know them.
Well, you should, for those that don't know that, just briefly describe the nature of that blow up.
Well, I mean, so Peloton created an ad for the holidays, right? And so it was like this husband gave this wife a bike for Christmas, and then she does this video blog of how she uses this bike all year round, but the woman was a twig. So first of all, it's like, okay, why would he give her this bike thinking she has to, she couldn't lose any weight? And it was just this whole backlash on it. And they obviously, I don't think they did their homework on their ideal client. And I certainly, I'm not sure how they created this. They did this sort of thing in a vacuum, and the backlash was was pretty hilarious, honestly. I mean,
Yeah,
if
it
you
was. And this is coming from actually a company that's done extraordinary branding, and they've seen successful
yes,
growth. If you don't know, Peloton makes very high-end, at-home spinning bikes, basically. And you can take courses online, real time, and all sorts of fitness, but especially cycling. But yeah, so that was an interesting
yeah,
closing.
it was. When a company is growing really fast, like they are, and they have a lot of venture capital money, and you know what, they're now riding this huge wave, you make mistakes. And they, I mean, I had some insider information that, the channels and the marketing communication wasn't clear enough, and there were certain people that didn't even see this ad before it went out, who then were responsible for all the backlash. So
All this goes back to where we're talking about, though, focus on your customer,
yeah.
And provide what they need. And I think a key word is transformation, that you have to think in terms of not just selling a product or a course or something, but that you're selling a transformation in their life, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to learn something that will shift their life, either towards something great or away from something that has not been good in their life.
Exactly. And it's about how you're their guide, right? You're not the hero in the story. They're the hero, and you're the guy that will help get them
Yeah,
there.
that's a great way to frame it. Great way to frame it. Well, listen, this has been a great conversation, really helpful for me to hear through this. And I even know you quite well. And still I learn from you every time. But for people who want to dive a little deeper, how can they find you?
Yeah, well, you can just check out soulfulmarketingsystem.com. Just check it out. However I can help you, yeah, sure. I'm happy to help.
I'll also let you know that there is a course that I am co-producing coming out also for entrepreneurs looking to increase their business and their influence. It's called The Art of the Ask. And it's about how to create successful collaborations to grow your business and influence without winding up in the delete box.
And I want to put a little plug in for that, because I've known Bill for over almost 2 years now. And the way that you have developed your relationships and the way that you work with people, I mean, you have a ton of integrity. And I've learned a lot from, looking at what you're doing under the hood with this course. So, I mean, it's pretty incredible. And I would say anyone who's listening to this, you need to check it out. So
thank you. We'll put some links at the end here, but that wraps it up. And I just want to thank you so much, Shannon.
Oh, you bet. Thank you. It was fun. I love it.
All right. Have a good day.